Right, here I am. Welcome. God bless you. Just obvious last minute dramatics with the computer. Either way, that's something that Julian of Norwich never experienced. I can confidently assert that. Once you hear when she was born and when she died. Then I have to find the notes, obviously. Here they are. Right. Her significant... Right, let's start again. Julian of Norwich. Her significant dates are 1342 circa, so around that time, to circa 1416, which means she was relatively old for that period. So 14th to 15th centuries. Right. This is like I'm going to do a kind of descriptor, as it were, of the scene because it's live. Right. Imagine a solemn procession. A group proceeding toward a cell with a requiem playing, just coming to an end. And a bishop, after genuflection, like making the sign of the cross, blesses the space, e.g. the cell, and led the solitary woman inside and then sprinkled, because it's a long time ago, ashes over her head and over her shoulders, and then scattered them across the stone floor, which would have been cold. Turning around, leaving the woman inside the tiny, empty, sparse, barren, I don't know what you want to call it, austere room, he shuts the pretty sturdy, heavy wooden door behind him, bolts the lock from the outside, and Julian of Norwich, who's the woman who has remained alone in the cell behind the locked door, would spend, wait for it, more than 40 years in that cell, that small room. And only once after she was interred, basically, but I don't know how you want to call it, locked in, introduced to her quarters, only once would she ever cross the threshold again. And that was when her corpse was carried over the threshold and onto the grave. Pretty, it's dedication, certainly. So this is the life of an anchoress. And she was a medieval anchoress. I've already given you her dates. And an anchoress is a holy woman who sequestered herself in order to devote her entire life, every waking moment and, slumbering moments also, to God. So in this practice of extreme solitude was rooted within the traditions of the 4th century desert fathers, who somewhat similarly retreated from cities in order to live alone in austerity and poverty in order to nurture a deeper connection with God. So the English word anchorite is derived from the Greek verb meaning to retire. And that also doesn't only mean at the end of your working life, obviously you retire to bed every evening, as it were. So an anchoress literally retired from the world and sealed herself into this small enclosure, which was called an anchor hold. And it was usually, and because this was, I won't say common practice, but this was not unheard of, it was usually adjacent or connected to the village church. So the rite of enclosure, with the sprinkling of the dust and the final blessings and the requiem and the bolting of the door, symbolized the death of the anchoress. And she was therefore considered dead to the world and entombed with Christ. And though confined, the anchoress was not entirely secluded. So Julian's anchor hold had at least 2 windows. And this was typically the case in other anchor holds. One of the windows opened to the inside of the chapel so that she could follow the daily mass and also to receive Holy Communion. And a second window opened to either the outside or to a parlor, like a living room, I guess you could call it, a lounge. I don't know what other people call it in English, in order that the anchoress could counsel visitors who sought out her guidance. That was one of the part of the JD, I suppose. Either way, yeah, so basically being a part of, but apart from the rest of the church, as it were, the body of believers. So finally, when describing her anchor hold, her cell, her room, there was a door that opened to a separate room in which a servant would stay. So this room, the servant's room, was then further connected to the outside world in order that the servant could come and go, because obviously they're not sequestered, as it were. So the servant of the anchoress, whomever the anchoress was, this was also traditional, was responsible for the necessities of secular living, like the real world necessities of the anchoress, which would include cooking, cleaning, emptying chamber pots. There was no modernized plumbing, of course, in those days. Shopping, other chores that the anchoress was not allowed to do for herself in order to devote more of her time to the contemplative life. Julian wrote somewhat prolifically, but never mentioned her role as a counsellor or spiritual advisor in her own writings. We do know, though, from none other than her contemporary Marjorie Kemp, who we looked at just a few days ago, or, I mean, in internet world, it's already posted, as it were. That's how we know that she performed the duty of counsellor to those who sought her out, because Marjorie Kemp recorded it. And if you can't remember, Marjorie was the one with the screaming and the wailing and the visionary, the medieval memoirist. So Kemp, this is Marjorie, of course, wrote in her memoir about visiting the anchoress in around 1412 or 1413 to seek out advice and spiritual counsel regarding her own pretty dramatic visions. And modern scholars, academics, surmise, e.g. they conclude or they postulate that whilst most of her daily hours were devoted to both contemplation and prayer, Julian most probably spent a few hours a week at least counselling visitors through the window that she had either to the outside world or at least into a room that was accessible by the public. And these contemporary scholars know very little about Julian's personal life. She didn't feel it important enough to, record it. They don't know her birth name. They don't know the year she was born, the year she died. And though it is estimated that she was born around 1342 or 3 and died in approximately 1416, they don't know the exact date. That's the bottom line. And the reason they don't know either of her entry into the anchor hold, they have no account of, we know that God drew her there, but, the circumstances surrounding that at all. Some have speculated that she was a laywoman, e.g. not a part of the church hierarchy, perhaps a widow whose husband and children had potentially perished in the Black Death. That was all the rage. I'm only kidding. That was very prevalent prior to her entering into the anchor hold. And the Black Death, as plagues go, it's thought to have decimated up to around 33%, so 1/3 of Norwich's population at that time. Other scholars have suggested she may have been a nun, so literally not a lay person or a laywoman. But what we can conclude is that she likely, I hope so anyway, she likely considered that the life of an anchoress was the best way for her to devote her life to both prayer, contemplation, and ultimately to God. Because if she didn't think that the best way, that sounds a bit sinister. Either way, as a young girl, she prayed specifically for 3 relatively unusual gifts from God. She prayed to see and experience Christ's crucifixion as if she were present. It's pretty unusual. She prayed to suffer from a near-death illness and to be afflicted with 3 wounds: contrition, compassion, and a full-hearted longing for God. So her prayers were answered in the spring of 1373, when aged 30-ish, she lay basically for 7 days on her deathbed, as she thought it. And a priest was summoned to administer last rites. And when he placed a crucifix at eye level, he urged her to fix her gaze on the form of Christ as she journeyed, from, shuffled off this mortal coil. But I don't think, Shakespeare hadn't come along yet. Either way, he said, have a look at this, in order for her to cross from life to death, basically. And her breathing became difficult, laboured, painful, and she, steadfastly looked upon the cross until, and this is a quote, suddenly in that moment, all of my pain left me, and I was as sound, particularly in the upper part of my body, as ever I was before or since. And she concluded that she was experiencing a miraculous relief from the pain in death. And those around her assumed that she was on the verge of dying also. And at one point, her mother, thinking that her daughter had passed away, reached out to close her eyes. She didn't die. Spoiler alert. Instead, over a period of days, she experienced a recorded number, 16 visions, which she would later refer to as her showings. And that she referred to them as the showings, even though it's archaic spelling, in the short text and also in the long text. These are the writings that would compose together the revelations of divine love. That was the title of her writing. So she saw the bloodied and bruised body of Christ on the cross, not immobile and static as one would imagine when looking upon a crucifix, but she saw it in full colour, as if he was suffering like right there in real time before her eyes. And she later witnessed another vision as Christ's visage, image, countenance transformed from the pool of death into one of peace and joyfulness. She also was able, through her visions, to be shown something small, no bigger than a hazelnut, lying in the palm of my hand. And this is a vision on which she would later base her theology of creation. And during these visions, she was also assaulted demonically, as it were, by Satan, whom she described as appearing in a foul stench, a great heat, smoke and chatterings and mutterings in her ears. Charming. So either way, initially, sorry, I've got to wipe my nose. No, I don't have a tissue. Don't be ridiculous. Okay. So initially, she put these visions, to being like a illness-induced and hallucinatory in nature. Rantings is what she called them. And it wasn't until a priest came and gave her his opinion and defined them as spiritual in nature that she began to, have second thoughts about her initial diagnosis, I guess, and also about the source of them. So, she was still quick to point out at a later date that it was not the revelations themselves that singled out herself as special or holy, but the fact that the visions had helped her to love God more deeply, holy, and therefore through her had helped others to do the same. And I'm sure anyone who's seen a powerful testimony, can attest to that. I'm not good because of the revelations, she wrote in the long text, but only if I love God better. For I am sure there are many who never had revelations or visions, but only the common teaching of Holy Church, who love God better than I. So, despite the fact that she lived in the time of, rampant death, disease, turmoil, etc., her theology was somewhat surprisingly optimistic. She has a biographer whose name is Grace Jansen, and she points out that although she had these 16 separate showings, as she called them, all of them, from the opening words of the first book through to the last chapter, revolved around a singular, consistent theme, and that was God's everlasting and God's ever-present love, which obviously is displayed in Christ. That's me saying it, not her. Know it well, love was his meaning, she wrote in the Revelations. Who reveals it to you? Love. What did he reveal to you? Love. Why does he reveal it to you? For love. Remain in this and you will know more of the same. The passion, e.g. Christ's crucifixion, was, as she understood it at least, and so should we all, the supreme manifestation of God's love for mankind. So her somewhat liberal theology was pretty radical. It was an understatement to say it wasn't typical amongst her contemporaries or just for that time period at all. However, her status that being an anchoress, afforded her, protected her from being accused, as Marjorie Kent was, of heresy. So whilst many contemporaries of hers argued that the Black Death was a sign of, judgment and punishment upon the wicked from God, she believed in a more merciful, a broader theology, suggested that God demonstrated only love, never wrath for his people, for those obviously who are in Christ. More than that, I guess, or further to that, she applied her understanding of God's love to sin, the question of sin, I guess, which was certainly contrary to the medieval Roman Catholic Church's stance. There was yet to be a Protestant church, obviously, because we're still in the she was born in the 14th century. Either way, she viewed it not as evil, technically, or the work of Satan, but she viewed it as a necessity for bringing one to self-knowledge. And because of Romans 8:28 and some other most excellent promises of God's, it's not out of the question what she suggests. Sin, as she argues, is a necessary part of free will, because it created or creates a greater understanding of the need for God's grace. I think I can get on board with that. She went as far as to claim that God did not forgive our sins. Oh, I've just took a step back. I saw truly that our Lord was never angry and never will be, she wrote. Because he is God, he is good. He is truth. He is love. He is peace. And his power, his wisdom, his charity, and his unity do not allow him to be angry. I can see where she's going with it. And between God and our soul, there is neither wrath nor forgiveness in his sight. It's a done deal, I guess, technically. So our soul is so wholly united through his own goodness that between God and our soul, nothing can interpose. Right. I'm going to come back to that. It doesn't sound as... I feel like I would change a couple of the words. Look at me. But I see what she means. It's nothing to do with us or our sins or our goodness, if you see what I mean on her behalf, as it were. Okay. While she was definitely grateful for the revelations, no TV, I'm kidding. It's a sparse and austere life she's living in between people coming like a couple of hours a week. She didn't just accept stuff like complacently without exploration. She didn't hesitate to ask God specific questions about her visions. She often, pondered, but not struggled. She thoroughly investigated, I guess, his words to her in an attempt to uncover his truth. Because, of course, it's easy to take your own meaning, your own exegesis, but it's the intent that's important. So when God said something that puzzled her, she would just dig into it and probe for greater understanding. And this is an example. In one of her visions, God said this to her: All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. I've heard that. Definitely. It was in T.S. Eliot. Yes, it's in a T.S. Eliot poem. So for Julian, living in a war-torn, disease-ridden, plague-infested, society, which was just rampant, like rife with death, dissent, illness, accusations of heresy, all sorts of naughtiness, let's put it like that, going on. It didn't make sense to her at all, this all shall be well. Although I can attribute it to a Bible verse immediately. And when God told Julian all shall be well, she did question him, like for a more or a specifically concrete answer that could be applied practically, that she could, pass on to others, but also apply fully to her own life. And she received an answer, but it wasn't as specific as she would have liked. She could join my club, as it were. I saw hidden in God an exalted and wonderful mystery, which will make plain, and we shall know in heaven, she wrote about the vision. In this knowledge, we shall truly see the cause why he allowed sin to come, and in this sight, we shall rejoice forever. So sometimes, as in the case I just mentioned, she was forced to accept that a concrete answer couldn't always be ascertained or uncovered, and that his proclamations required faith as opposed to, on some occasions, practical, rational understanding. So she wrestled with and contemplated the meaning of her visions over and over, like throughout her entire lifetime, 16 visions. And the revelations of divine love, which is her work, was her attempt to communicate God's message, not more fully, that's utterly wrong, just communicate it to other believers, fellow Christians. And whilst many questions remained unanswered, or at least to her satisfaction, as it were, that's not sacrilegious. Her conclusion, her final words within the revelations offered some hope. She said this, and this word, thou shalt not be overcome, was said full clearly and full mightily for assuredness and comfort against all tribulations that may come. He said not, thou shalt not be tempested, and that's not tempted, that's thrown about in the winds of struggles. He said not, thou shalt not be travailed, thou shalt not be afflicted, but he did say, thou shalt not be overcome. And that's just reminded me of Isaiah 43. Though you walk through the fire, it will not scorch you, and though you walk through the waters, they will not overcome you. Back to Julian. God wants that we take heed, listen to these words, and that we be ever strong in sure trust in weal and woe, sickness and in health kind of thing, happiness and yada yada. For he loveth, he literally wrote like the KJV, for he loveth and enjoyeth us, and so willeth that we love and enjoy him and mightily trust in him, and all shall be well. I like it a lot. So Romans 8:28 kind of by it. Also, Jeremiah 29:11-13. Also the Isaiah that I referenced, loads. She didn't always find a concrete answer, which I'm ready to go out on a limb and say, please God, you enjoy a long life, and that will be the case for you also. To all the questions, obviously, some you will have them just drop into your heart like they will come. Others won't. And especially her questions about the existence of sin, which philosophers are still, the problem of sin, as it were, as the conundrum is called, and to suffering also. And whilst that is the case, as I say, she didn't get her concrete answer. She did offer a convicting example of God's love, the depth of his love, the breadth of his love, the perfection, like there's no way to describe God's love. I'm not going to try. So the words that she used, would as compelling to modern readers, you know, as they would have been to her contemporaries. And that was more than 500 years ago now. And yeah, some words are just timeless, obviously. The Bible's out there as evidence of that straight off. So that's her, and that's her very brief, like a summary of her life and her visions. I should really put links to their written works. I never thought of that. I'll stick it on my imaginary list, unless someone reminds me. It may not end up in the description box, but please, Jesus, I do remember. Or find a pen immediately after pressing the button. Anyway, I'm back, and I still don't have a tissue, which is just shocking bad form for me. So, who's Edith, Armour of God? God bless you, Edith, and all who sail in you. So, right. All right, everyone. Any questions? And I clearly don't mean on Julian's life. Julian. Yeah, it's spelt Julian, which is, yeah. Either way. I can ask him, Simon. Sorry for anyone who can't see the chat. Simon is just thinking out loud that Bob and I having a theoretical debate. Why not a real debate? We don't have to just theorise. We have debated already, Simon, on, publicly on two subjects, evolution and the sufficiency of prayer. Obviously, I'm on both of them. We often, we do speak when we're occasionally out together, but as soon as I start winning, he says things like, okay, we're not going to bore everybody. And I'm like, all right, I'm winning it. But yeah. Any comments, questions, suggestions for material? Because someone did say to me, oh, that girl stuff, when I mentioned, I think it was Marjorie. We are, Simon. Yes, you can tell because it doesn't say Prem, I think, on the screen. I can't remember now. All right, Cherokee, lovely. Jordan, I'm happy you love these. No, I wouldn't do that, Ivan. I'm not even going to show you. No, I wouldn't do that. I'll just sit here until I drown, basically, in my own bodily fluids. Or I'll just kind of sniff. It's such a shocker that I don't have such a good job. I'm not an environmentalist, really, because it's quite a lot of tissue goes into the making of this noise. You know what I mean? Right. So do I, Simon. And sometimes, I must admit, I like it also when I put up a video for the second time and I'm in the chat. Because oftentimes I'm sitting there thinking, that's really interesting. Because I leave it a while, I've kind of, not my own ad-libs, but the actual factuals, as it were. Yeah. I did particularly like listening back. It's not egocentric, I don't think no, it isn't. The stuff about the attributes of God, there were 6 different ones. I just think my head must have been screwed on all right that day. But yeah, I like a bit of fellowship myself. Oh, hang on, Baz has come up with a real life Edith. I was extracting the Michael, as it were, about his spelling of enjoydeth. Okay. I never knew that. So Edith of Kemsing, everybody, was dispossessed or trafficked princess who chose the ascetic life in around 800, obviously AD, and yeah, has a well that is dressed each year. Please don't imagine a t-shirt and sandals, like a decorated, I guess, every year in her memory. I'm assuming. Villainous. Yeah. Villainous is asking, is my life getting any less ridiculous? I can still find the ridicule in it. It's more, yeah, where would I begin? The grieving stuff, I don't want to say it out loud in case the next load rolls around, as it were, but all right. I have little moments where I still feel a little bit empty sometimes, but only in little bursts now, whereas before it was like the default setting for just a hot minute there. And I will make a video about it, about coping, various coping mechanisms that can be a little bit counterproductive. They can get you out of trouble in that moment, as it were, but I won't say disingenuous, because obviously you're doing it to yourself, but there are obviously always better ways of doing stuff. And I was pondering the fact that emotional pain, you can feel it literally. I mean, it's I feel like it's more tiring. So any intellectual pursuit, in my experience, I can't say I've never been really fatigued by physical exertion, because not obviously, I have. I've had jobs that were physical in nature and, very tired, etc. But it's a different kind of tired to emotional upset. And also you feel like your brain doesn't necessarily differentiate between physical punching or slapping or pain, like reception, and emotional. That saying, like, that was a slap in the face and it was just verbal. It's because I've had, like, often, if I'm, that the feeling of being choked. I don't mean it. I mean, when you say, "Oh, I was really choked," it's English, it's colloquial, but that feeling of you've been punched in the throat from an emotion, like hearing really bad news and you just can't speak properly because it's a real thing. And I don't know where I was going with that. I think cuddles are very important. Just to throw it out there. So let's read about. Definitely, Daffod is saying that you read about Christians who have pretty torrid times but becoming inspirational by their faith. And she is certainly one of them, Julian of Norwich. 40 years in a teensy-weensy room. I mean, that's some introverts, that's their idea of, good times. But they've potentially got a computer in there and, stuff. Thank you, Baz. Baz is saying I could do something on... Do you mean as a video? You do. Something from C.S. Lewis's work, A Grief Observed. Yeah, and Letters to Malcolm as well, I think, is dealing with that. Yeah, the next thing I'm threatening to do is the coping mechanism stuff. I've got it all worked. Like, I've got all my notes written out. I put it all to paper, and then, I don't know, the mood left me again. Next time I feel that I'm indulging in this coping mechanism, and then when I get frustrated with myself, that will be the time. It'll be like 2 a.m. I'll just be like, right, I'm here, listen to this. Although I may try, sorry, I've gone all West Country, I may try to schedule something, because today I signed up, masochist anyone, for a different qualification, which is a positive thing, but it does mean more. Sorry, it means more studying. So yes, Jordan, we both have chocolate. We'll always have chocolate, babes. That's the long and the short of it. I mean, I'm still waiting on my delivery of chocolate from a certain somebody, but apparently you have to forgive. That's biblical. Ivan is telling me that China wants to invade Taiwan, and Putin seeks affiliation with the Taliban / Muslims / dictators, generalized dictator. Sorry. And they will always find each other somewhere, and that is sad. It is. I don't know about the Taiwan. I know that Hong Kong, they're refusing to. I do need a tissue though. They're refusing to acknowledge the 100 years in which Britain ran Hong Kong. We did have a verbal agreement. I feel definite that, I don't mean when we had them for 100 years, as it were, under our governance. I mean, when we came to the end of that agreement, which was hashed out no pun intended, just after the Opium Wars, the agreement was that we would support them in their endeavours to remain within a Western style framework for their democracy. Then we said, oh, is that the time? And just left whilst China took liberties, is what I'm going to say. But thank you, Cherokee. I may just have to cough it in a minute, babes. But yeah, China. God bless them. They need some, well, Bibles are smuggled in. Like it's pretty bad when people are rewriting the Bible to make Jesus a murderer and they're still keeping straight face, like no shame whatsoever. What can you say? Oh yeah, you could say human rights violations, I suppose. Yeah. All right, Daffod is saying, when you read Julian's works, you get the picture. Her pre-life was pretty traumatic. The church appears to be her saviour from what was before, and her quotes are comforting. So yeah, the church / God, Jesus. I don't suppose it was the church eventually, if you see what I mean, David, because she chose utter isolation and seclusion other than to take the communion through the tissue. Anyone? No. Through the little window aperture that she had. Right. This is horrific. The affliction, the first world problems over here. Can you imagine? Nigeria. They may have tissues. Shut up, Kay. Donut. Right. Yes, the cost of living is skyrocketing, I think is a fair descriptor, adjective for what is going on with cash money and, well, I say cash, lol, look how old-fashioned I am, plastic money and what's happening. Also the travel, I don't know what's going on in England. I do know what's going on, but it's just utterly depressing sometimes. Phil, it's funny you should say that. Yeah, it's Ivan, it's fluctuating because wow, right, this has got to happen. I'm so sorry. It's fluctuating, the pound. I do apologise. And I did enjoy it a little. Either way, the pound, GBP, sterling, as quids, as we call them lots of things. I've been watching it because of some travel plans that eventually I will get around to discussing, not with you people, with other people, to apologise. Yeah, I've been keeping my eye on it in relation to one other currency. So it does rally. It's just very odd as a British person for the pound not to be stable and strong. Even though we have, it fluctuates over the years, but not usually in one day, up and down this is a very London saying, so I apologise. Up and down like an oar's drawers is how we reference that. My way. Right, let's see what Baz is saying, because I saw G&T. I'm not going to read that out because I feel like that's product placement for Jesus, as it were. But yeah, I'm trying, Ivan, but it's not. I shouldn't have to say this. I'm not streaming from the lavatory, as it were. This is a different room. So yeah. I would end up ripping my nose. If I got a blanket, I'm just not happening. I'm not doing this Blue Peter-esque, like a make do amend thing. I just, in future, I shall be thoroughly organised. I'm going to say lied as opposed to fibbed. It isn't that far, Ivan, but I'm not going to leave yours. It's fine, darling. It's absolutely fine. Thank you for your concern. My sleeve will take the brunt, and then the washing machine is an appreciable distance, as is the washroom / bathroom / lavatory / whatever you call it where you live. The WC, the throne room, smallest room in the house, etc. Carol is when I was little, sometimes I used to think my nan had coined them. I hope maybe it is one of hers. I don't think it is. Yeah, there's loads of brilliant ones. I feel like pretty my nan is getting on now, and she's not in the best of health. I feel like I want to get her on record, like record her talking, because in London, certainly within the last 40 years, definitely, there's a new, we used to have, there was colloquialisms that were unique to the north of London, south, east, west, maybe. No one really listens to them anyway. But yeah, they're slowly, they have, if you took it by numbers, they've almost disappeared entirely from the the Mandan chat, as it were. It came in pretty hard. But yeah, when I was younger, when it wasn't a language, like a lingo, thanks, Simon. I'm going to delete your comment in a minute. Either way, where was I going with this? Yes, I used to read a certain author, and also like real life accounts, as it were, and you realise, I guess, even though it's nostalgic for me to hear like really broad London colloquialisms and like ways of speaking and the accent, I do love it. It just reminds me of, I don't know, my nan, I guess. But when you read stuff from even, I don't know, 100 years ago, which is just, before my nan was born, there's marked differences. And obviously when you go back a couple of hundred, when you get back to Shakespeare, it's just a free-for-all, basically. He was making it up literally as he went along sometimes. I don't know where I just veered off into that, but language is the thing that language is one of my oldest academic disciplines that I'm passionate about. No, she's not. She's not as old as your dad, Baz. Wow, he's doing all right for himself, isn't he? That is good. She did, yeah. She was, but she was a child during the Second World War. So, yeah, that's as far as I'm going to go without doxing her, giving you a middle name. I don't think she knows what a YouTube is, but I've heard her in the past answering the phone. I won't do the swearing, but I've heard her say, I haven't got a Google, and just slam the phone down, because I think she's not really au fait with the tech. If anyone ever wants to video call her, she puts her hand out for the phone, but then she, without fail, will press, like, will put her fingers on and just, something will go on. But I love that lady. She's indescribable, but in a good way. That's all right, Jacob. It's my pleasure. Keeps me off the street. Are we talking about? Oh, of course. I thought we'd veered into American politics. I was thinking of AOC. Right. Oh, sorry, Carol. I was just halfway through your thingy and Nightbot was. Oh, nice, Carol. I like it. I did local history in respect of my family tree, and now because of my uncle's death, or my great uncle actually, last year, and the fact that he didn't leave a will or nobody found a will, means that I had to do some more like family tree research. I say me, the solicitor should have done it, but that's not the point. But yeah, I've unearthed some more like stuffs. I just literally sent to my mum's cousins some photos that I found at my nan's house. Yeah, I love all that stuff. I just like it, because once there's a poem that's so bad I can't think of it. It's by Kemp. Either way, one of the lines is, to live in hearts we leave behind is not to die. And I often think that, like I was saying it to my mum, I've got loads. When I say loads, I mean, to be fair, I've got like 6,000 photos on my phone, but my nana's got the equivalent in actual albums and stuff. And she's really good, in as much as over the years she always writes on the back of the photo who it is and around about what year it was, etc. which is invaluable because, like I say, when her brother, my uncle, died, I got all of his family photos, and unfortunately, I don't know his in-laws. So there's photos of people who somebody somewhere doing their family tree would just like, really love to see them, but I don't know who they are, so I can't even upload them anywhere to be found. So yeah. Would you give back the last 20, 30, 40, odd years of blessings, arm of God, if you're wishing to be younger? I'm assuming you're not 29, wishing to be 30. Just a question. Not aggressive. Oh, okay then. That's a resounding nope. He's got all capital letters, everyone. Let's all just chill out. Baz, all right, everybody. Mae West said this. You could. I just read through to the end of the quote in my mind. You're only as young as the men you feel. It's not an invitation to paedophilia, obviously. She means, I guess, that younger. Oh, why have I started this? Being around young people, let's say, or younger people, gives you a joie de vivre. I'm going to exit stage left on that quote now. But the real quote is, you're only as young as you feel. They don't mean they mean, shut up, Kay. They mean youth is an inequality as opposed to chronological, age, etc. Yeah, she was a bit of a girl. Carol and Simon. That's nice, Cherokee. I know that youth, I think this is an Oscar Wilde quote, youth is wasted on the young. So true. I was thinking it. When you're young, you just wish your life away. You just want to be older at all stages. When you're in elementary or primary school, you want to be in higher or secondary school. Once you're there, you want to be doing your A levels. Once you're there, you want a job. Just wish it away for the sake of what, I don't know. Because when you're 21, you can drink in every single pub, or when you're 18, you can. That's what I say to that. It's a joke. Growing up is a trap. Don't fall for it. If you're young enough for this to be relevant for you, don't listen. It's all twaddle. Nobody ever really feels grown up. Also, that's another big secret that no one tells you. Everyone's winging it. I still get surprised when people assume I'm a grown up. If I say something that on the inside I go, what? That sounds a bit mad. But it comes out sounding reasonable, and people go, yeah. I think, oh my God, they're falling for it. I'm getting away with it. They think I'm a grown up. Then I look in the mirror, and obviously I am. Sorry. So yeah, every day is a blessing. Let's not get it all twisted up. However, it would be nice to have some of those days again with, forewarned, except that it doesn't work like that. And when you try and tell younger people, it's exactly the same as when you were younger, and older, or old, as I like to call them in those days, people told you, go, yeah, whatever, what do they know? Dinosaurs, etc. That's good. Knowledge doesn't age. No, it matures, it accumulates, and gets better, I suppose. Also, have you ever noticed how distant wisdom is always presumed to be wiser? Like Terry Pratchett kind of, he did it much better than I can, but he just postulated that for us, for example, like Tibetan monks seem very wise and kind of Zen or whatever they do, I don't know, contemplating the navel, but their wisdom, like ancient, far off wisdom. But he was surmising that for those Tibetan teenagers, they might want to travel to, the equivalent of London and just sit on some old lady's doorstep because she's old and her wisdom is distant. It just made me laugh. I think her name was Edna, the one who he used. Cake, Mrs. Cake, her name was. That is true, Jordan. Some days are not even that long. But yeah, in Britain we get 6 weeks holidays when you're a child, like as in from school. And I'm not joking, when you're in lower school, like before you're 11 years old, those 6 weeks, on the day one, you might as well have like 6 months, and it feels like 6 months, especially if it's raining. Just a day can feel like about, 3. Now it's, I don't know if I've told you this before, but basically I'm trapped in Groundhog Day. It's just Thursday. Every other day I'm going, is it Thursday again? can't believe it's nearly Thursday. It's Thursday tomorrow. So, just nothing even happens on a Thursday. I don't know where I got caught in this loop. But yeah, peeps, it'll be Thursday soon. You watch. Guaranteed. Please God for you, obviously, that you're still here and so am I. But yeah, I'm on a bit of a Thursday vibe for some reason. There's a relevance somewhere. Exactly, Roku. Or it's kind of Wednesday/Friday, but you're like, how is it just gone Thursday? You're like, it was only Thursday 5 minutes ago. But yeah. I mean, for people like Bill and us, obviously that comes around even quicker. When I'm sitting there on a Wednesday going, is it Thursday tomorrow already? It's already Thursday for him. Shocking. Shocking, like, deficit of all the other days and an excess of Thursdayness as I'm now. Not christening it, but coining it. Right. Hang on a minute. Thursday's child, I think, is full of grace. No, fair of face. Can't remember that Sullivan Grundy thing. I was wondering if there was some relevance, but so wait, Simon, is that your hint? Like that? Press the button, okay? No, the ex-husband we know is. Don't worry, we know how to differentiate. He hasn't got a lid, like a garbage receptacle. Although sometimes academic distinctions are just, just the show, as it were. Cherokee. Oh, okay, abstract illusion. Yeah, I'm not ungrateful for a load of Thursdays. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if I could choose my life with more Thursdays in it or less, obviously, yeah, I'm not one of those people who. No, I'm going to be grateful for whatever days God gives me. I don't mean Thursdays or otherwise. I mean length of life, as it were. Later, Simon. Baked potato, as we say around here. Oh, no, soon I have to go because now I can feel the pressure in my sinuses. Oh my God, that is utterly relevant information for anyone in your country, within your town or village or state or whatever who has that promotion. I noticed you didn't put a sign for, Japanese yen or American dollars. Just random $3.99 everybody, but I can't advertise. But yeah, crappy fried chicken. Right. If you haven't got any questions and you're just advertising food promotions, I'll make a move to Tissueville, as I like to call it. I don't like to call it that. That's a fib. I just made that up on the spot. Daffy, I am aware of what year it is. It's not that bad. I used to, Ivanhoe, I like that song. I still do like that song, but I used to have, more listening time with The Cure when I was even more pale and more interesting, as it were. Shush, Cherokee, shush. You could have been born 10 years after it came out. Don't do it to yourself. Right, everyone's literally now just buoying me up. They're like, yeah, latest game. Okay, I'm going to read the last comment, maybe in the privacy of my own brain. I haven't decided yet. That's a comment to somebody else. Anyhow, Daffyd, you could be in luck. I literally have my marbles in my bag. I'm not going to lean down and try and get it in case no. What you want to do, sir, is purchase some marbles, keep them like somewhere. I don't suppose you have a handbag because I'm unencumbered by this correct thought police speech. But yeah, I don't know. Get them on some sort of keychain, but then at least you have a couple of marbles left at all times. You're welcome. Yeah, I've got to go now as well. Got to go. Oh, Chris, sorry, kid. It's literally time for me to blow this nose because otherwise it's hurting now, literally. Oh, Daffyd, perfect place to put them because please God you don't take it out with you. If you have a Tom Selleck moustache and all that, I'm really sorry. But yeah, ta-ta, as it were, Chris. And Yeah, press the first button, Kay. Just do it. Goodness. Right, she's done it. She's done the first one. Thank you, Roku. It's always good to see you. So that's for you, Jordan. Everybody else, God bless you. Well, including Jordan, God bless you. Lots of love. See you later. Hopefully unencumbered by the bunged up schnoz, as I like to think of it sometimes, but not always. She's waffling. Right. I'll see you next time. Bye.